Hi everyone, I'm Allie and this is Top Book Club. Today I'm talking to Amy Yorke about her novel Alchemy and Ashes. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Can you give us a quick summary of the book for those who haven't read it yet?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Alchemy and Ashes is about two sisters who plan to assassinate the king that killed their father in sort of a previous war. But their plan goes awry when one of the sisters falls in love with him.
All right, I saw that you have another series that's more cozy. So what inspired you to write Alchemy and Ashes?
Yeah, so my other series of books, there are four of them, and so I wrote the Good and the Green is the first one in that series, and then there's kind of four seasonal cozy fantasies. And basically, I got to the end of that and was like, I don't think I can cozy anymore right now. I kind of reached the end of my cozy threshold. I mean, the thing about writing cozy kind of books is that it's actually quite challenging because the things that we rely on a lot as writers to kind of create conflict, like big dramatic, violent kind of scenes and things, you really can't rely on in cozy
Hmm.
fantasy. People will be upset if you just start killing characters and have, wars starting and,
But it's not
betrayals
so
and
cozy
lies.
anymore.
Not exactly, no.
Yeah.
And so it can be challenging to come up with kind of scenarios that create conflict. A lot of it is character driven, and the characters trying to meet their goals and dealing with issues in their past, but without using sort of the more dramatic kind of things that you typically rely on. And so I basically just wanted the drama. I just wanted to bring the drama with this one. So there are a lot of lies and betrayals. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of violence. Just something to kind of switch it up. But I can't completely get rid of like the part of me that really likes good people doing good things, and so I think that ends up coming through, even though this isn't as cozy as my other series.
Yes, it really did. I loved it so much.
Oh, thank you.
So then was it difficult to make the shift from your previous style to this one?
I think the actual hardest thing in terms of the style shift was switching from past tense to present tense in the writing. My other series is written in third person past tense. And I chose that for the cozy kind of thing because a lot of cozy fantasy is in descriptions, it's in the setting, and feel like it's easier when you're not like in a character like voice, like a narrative, like a first person narrative, to be able to just take time out and be like, I'm going to give you like three paragraphs about like what this like little town looks like and feels like, versus in my in Alchemy and Ashes, since I'm in Sylvie's point of view and I'm writing through Sylvie's voice, like she's very straightforward, she's very sarcastic, she's not going to wax poetic about stuff very
Yeah.
much, like I let her have like a couple little moments, when she's like in awe of some kind of beauty or something, but for the most part she just kind of moves through the description. So that was like a big shift, but like it was really like writing in the present tense after writing in past. Like I kept slipping back into past tense.
Hmm.
But again, I did that for a reason of that. Like I wanted us to feel like we were really in the moment with her, like in the action, in the moment. I feel like you get a sense of urgency in present tense that you just don't get in a past tense story.
What's your writing process like usually?
Yeah, so I'm a planner. So like there's a lot of writers will talk about the difference between kind of, I think George R. R. Martin called it like gardeners versus architects, or planners, like plotters versus pantsers, like the seat of your pants kind of writing. Um, I I do plan out my books in advance, so I do have I write an outline. I usually start with sort of like the concept, so kind of the concept that I told you at the beginning of the call, what that's about. Although the concept that I originally had was fairly different than what I ended up with, I did shift things around a bit as I was kind of fleshing out the story I wanted to tell. But I start with kind of, one or two lines about something, and then it's really called like the snowflake method. You'll see out there sometimes as well, where you make it at a level of increasing complexity. So you might go through them like one or two lines to like a paragraph, to like a couple of paragraphs, to like a page. Um, Usually a page is about as far as I take it in terms of like what are the major events that are happening before I start into like scene planning.
Hmm.
Um, and then for this book, because um, I wanted it to feel like something was always happening. Like I think that one of the things that I will find sometimes reading books and not just in this genre, but across the board is that sometimes you'll get into the middle section and it gets like repetitive or it gets like it kind of drags like the beginning is so exciting, the end is so exciting, and then there's like nothing happening in the middle and you're like, oh my god, come on, can something needs to happen here. So I tried to write this. I actually the structure that I went with when I was trying to write this was like plotting like a TV show.
Okay.
So I imagined this would be like a 10 episode TV show. And at the end of each episode, I wanted to like cliffhanger something into the next episode to create like a moment that had you being like, oh, I've got to keep watching the show. So that's kind of the structure that I went with for this. So there was originally like 40 chapters in the outline. I think the final draft is like 43. So I ended up pretty close to kind of what I originally outlined. But yeah, I have like maybe 2 or 3 sentences to a paragraph about each chapter before I write it. And then I just sit down and write from the beginning. I write from page one. I usually have to revise my outline when I'm about halfway through, and I did this time as well. Like I reached the halfway point, had to change significantly the outline again to get to the second half. And
Hmm.
then I did go back and rewrite the first several chapters twice when I for this book. I did and I rewrote them almost entirely. Like I pulled them out and rewrote them and changed the scene transitions because kind of once you get to the end of the book, you're like, is the beginning does it really fit the story that
Hmm.
I'm telling at the end? And for me, it didn't. So I rewrote it a couple of times.
Ah, well, that's really cool that you said about like writing it like a TV show because I definitely felt just like you pulling me along throughout the story. So it was like everything was like, what's gonna happen? So that's really cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Did anything specific inspire the magic system? I thought it was really cool how you put at the beginning the like descending order of like the different elements.
Yeah, so the what I was really thinking about, there's a lot of elemental magic out there, and I've played kind of video games and Dungeons and Dragons has systems like that, and then lots and lots and lots of books use some kind of elemental system. But I was doing some kind of background research on, the basically the book is it's not strictly set in, and it's not set in our world, but it's based loosely on kind of like the Hellenistic period of like ancient Egypt, Greece, Rome. So like that a time period where there's like a lot of cultural exchange. And one of the major kind of things that was an area of study at the time was alchemy. And alchemy was essentially considered a science. It was
Hmm.
not like really, it was related to religious practice in the way that everything kind of was in the ancient world. But one of the inspirations there in terms of like the hierarchy was this, that alchemy has this sort of idea of like purification, of, refinement, of there being some things being better and more refined than others, and so like the lead into gold process. But,
Hmm.
there was a hierarchy to the elements. Um, I thought that that was an interesting system to have. And I also I wanted to use it because it makes for an interesting kind of societal development, but I also wanted to have some kind of commentary, and I think this comes through some in this book but will come through a lot more in the second book around like, is it really good to put things in hierarchies? Like, is it really like are some things better and more pure than others, or is there actually equal value in all kinds of different things? And so I thought that I could use it as a little bit of a vehicle for like social commentary in that way as well. And kind of looking at real divisions and hierarchies that exist in like our real world, and reflecting some of that into the conflict of the book. And again, I think that's going to come through a lot more in the second book. It's kind of just loosely touched on in the first because the first
Hmm.
really focuses on the romance.
Yeah.
But I think you can expect to see a lot more of the magic and fantasy in the second.
Ooh, okay. Uh, I really liked the addition of the city map. Did you always want to include it, or was it a step at the end?
It was really a step towards the end, and I did it for myself initially. I I am not very good at remembering geography.
Mhm.
When I'm reading through books too, like I cannot keep track of where things are. And I do refer to maps a lot when I read other people's books as well. And so I was like doing an editing pass, and I'm like, where did I say that the alchemist skill? Like, I'm pretty sure I've given four different locations for some of these buildings at this point. And so I sat down and started trying to map it out for myself so that I could make it actually like logically follow how I was describing locations in there. And then I was like, I should just I should just do this. I'll just give this to everybody. Like then they have it, and because I know not everyone, follows along for that kind of thing. But if you do, then it's there and you can kind of see the layout and stuff. But yeah, that was a fun one to make. And I thought it was actually, I might like, do that in the future before I start writing something because it is much easier to like look at something and be like, ah, that's where I said this
Yeah,
temple
refer
was.
to it later.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, your main male character is such a lovely change from what I usually see in the romantasy genre. So, why the deviation from the typical shadow power main male character? Did you draw inspiration from anyone in particular for him?
Yeah, so I do love the shadow, like kind of male character. I think they can be so much fun, but I do feel like there are a lot of them out there. There's a lot of that kind of character, and I'm not big on telling a story that someone else has already told. Like if I don't have something new to say, like or something kind of additional to say about it, then it's just not as interesting for me.
Hmm.
Um, and so I wanted to see a different kind of male main character. I think also it's a bit of a response to just sort of societal things, that have been happening, and sort of this like a lot of the conversation that's being happened right now around gender roles, around sort of a regression in terms of like how we're thinking about femininity and masculinity. And I wanted something where, a lot of the things that are typically coded as feminine, especially in fantasy.
Hmm.
So like the healer is like always the girl, right? In the party, like in the video games and the
Yeah.
books, like it's always the girl's the healer. And and I like to play the healer. I don't think there's anything like wrong with that, Um, but I wanted something, where I was like, what would it look like if a man had this like ability? Like what would it look like for a man who's actually in power, like to have these typical feminine traits of empathy and, connecting with people and like being a really like a people person who's quite empathetic and then has the healing powers and some of the things that are just kind of stereotypically coded as feminine. I just thought it would be interesting, like to see, and I don't think there wasn't really a direct inspiration for him other than like again the kind of the emotional magic was something that was in Jasper and Twilight. Which I always thought was one of the most interesting characters that I wish she'd explored more. I always like was like, this is actually an interesting, a power and ability and like how it would affect them. Um, but the actual, like his actual personality and stuff isn't really influenced by anyone specific. I really kind of mapped him to who he was similar to after the fact.
Okay, well, he's like one of my favorite characters, so just I loved reading about him. I was like, oh, whenever he was like there, I was just like, yes.
Oh, thanks.
Um, I found it intriguing that Ronan's ability was focused on reading people's intentions as opposed to like directly reading their minds. So tell me more about that decision, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I thought that what what what's really interesting to me when you're writing is kind of giving yourself flexibility in terms of um, interpretation. Rather than kind of feeding the reader like exactly what you want them to get out of something or what they want them to think. I love like layers of interpretation and like kind of keeping things like a layer abstracted back so that you can take different things from it as well. And so I thought that having that layer between like knowing exactly what someone's thinking, like exactly the thoughts that they're having, versus just feeling their emotions and intentions left like this space. There's like a space between of ambiguity, of the
Hmm.
possibility of him being deceived, of him misinterpreting things, of, sometimes our first emotional response to something is quite different than the thing we would actually say about it, or even things we think. Um, and so I thought that that created like this space where rather than Ronan being like a perfect mind reader who always knows what everyone's thinking at all times, like he isn't. And I think it's interesting because like he sometimes I think feels like he knows people better than maybe he really does. Like he is betrayed, across the course of the book. He is deceived, but then sometimes he is right about people too. And so I felt like it gave like a nice flexibility to his character to be able to let him rather than being like a perfect, have perfect knowledge of everyone around him. He has to guess, in some
Hmm.
ways too.
Our introduction to Sylvie, your first line, I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, the knife at my throat needs sharpening. I was like, oh my, okay, such a cool line. I was so excited. So as I read on, her struggle with truth, lies, and preconceived notions was very compelling. And so did you pull inspiration for her?
I think she also basically both of them kind of came to me fully formed, like they were, and that doesn't always happen for me, like that's not usually kind of the case, but like I was some of the first scenes that I envisioned with them, or some of the earliest ones that happen, like where they meet, and kind of the first meeting where they're in like the antechamber, and then the kind of the second time they meet again, in like after the guy next to her, is going to kill Ronan, and Taryn comes over and kills him. So those were like some of the first scenes that I envisioned, and their personalities like there are kind of what they like solidified in my head of like this is who they are. And so I knew pretty early that I wanted, if he was going to be light and empathy and healing, I wanted her to be shadow and secret and darkness. um, and I thought that again, the most interesting version of that character to me is to have that be a conflict for her, for rather than her being like a true rogue type that like thrives on secrets and lies and whatever else. It's kind of in conflict with who she really is. Like it's an aspect of her character, and part of the way that magic works in this world is that it's based on kind of some of their personality and adolescence, but it's coming from, rather than it being like her intentionally trying to deceive people, it's coming from a place where she's been neglected and overlooked and living kind of in the shadow of the other people in her family.
Hmm.
And so she's kind of by necessity kept like a secret part of herself. That, she's actually, kinder and more empathetic than most of the people in her family. And that's viewed as something of a weakness, and
Hmm.
by her parents. And so that's kind of where her like the secret side of her is coming from, rather than it being like her being like just a liar for the sake of lying. Yeah.
All right, disclaimer going to in the spoiler sections. So Ronan choosing to be a good, fair ruler was so powerful to read. Like, literally, he's one of my favorite characters now. How did you feel knowing that he has the strength to break that line of generational trauma?
Yeah, I absolutely love that about him. Like, I think it's really, it was just something that I haven't seen very much of. And I really wanted to put it out there. I wanted to say, like, and I think it's quite a hopeful take, especially again in the time that it feels quite hopeless. But like, I really do think that there, there are people, and there have historically been people who have seen a better path, who have who have put aside all of the pain and the trauma and all of the things that have happened to them and that happened to their parents and their families, and have been able to look and say, like, there has to be an end to it at some point. Like, and I think it takes a ton of strength to do that, honestly. I think it's really easy to slide into the kind of that same pattern of thinking, and you know and letting that define you. And but like we don't move forward as a
Hmm.
people, as a society, as you know, unless somebody is willing to stand up and say enough is enough. Like this is
Hmm.
it. Like I'm just ending it here. Like we're going to just do better now. um and I do think that, when I have Sylvie basically call him on it and be like, look, you won though. Like it's really easy for you to say when you won. Like I think that's true too. Like I do think that it's easier for him in the position that he's in to be
Hmm.
able to take that stance. But I also think it's still pretty powerful because not many people do. Like a lot of people, once they get that power, they still use it to oppress. They still use it to, keep people down or to punish. And I think for him to kind of extend the olive branch to, like, reach out and say, look, let's be better than what our parents were. I think it's really powerful, and I really liked that. I really liked giving him that strength. Like, and it's not to say that he doesn't have doubts or that he does it perfectly, but like, I think he really makes a genuine effort. Like he really tries.
It was such a like nice experience to be able to see that strength in him because as I was reading, he like became such a safety that it was just so nice to know that it's like he's probably not the one who's lying, and it was just really nice that it's like sudden betrayal at the end wasn't going to happen from him because he was just like such a sweetheart. Like it was just I loved so much. My favorite line from his POV, also I love that we got his POV. I was like, she doesn't know how rare it is to find someone who not only doesn't disappoint you, but someone who fascinates you and challenges you and humbles you. That hit me so hard. Like, just like imagining him, especially the not only who doesn't disappoint you, because it's like, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to like knowing someone and then they don't like live up to your expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think like what I envisioned in their romance is that I wanted them to heal something in each other, and for Sylvie, who's been overlooked kind of her whole life, like Ronan sees her, like he sees her immediately, he sees her value, he sees how special she is, like he sees all the things that she wished someone else would have seen and valued, when she was kind of growing up.
Hmm.
And for Ronan, I feel like Sylvie is the thing that he's like the vision he has for the world, she is that. Like she is that person who can put those differences aside, who can be like who is an example of someone from his enemy, the family that has like destroyed his life, like that, like they have done so much to hurt each other. And she is part of that, but she's different. Like it's proof to him that like the idea that he has that there is a way forward is real. Like and
Hmm.
she proves it by hearing him out, by being reasonable, by not just like betraying him or like not here, like going back to what she's been taught. Like she keeps her mind open despite kind of everything, like every reason that she shouldn't. And it kind of validates like what he believes about the world. And so to me, that's what like the strength of their romance is that that there are very specific things that have like are the things that haunt them all the time, like they heal in each other.
Hmm. Sylvie was such a captivating character to me. I wanted to know how did you maintain her strength and autonomy when she chose Ronan over her family?
Yeah, that was really, it was really tough for me to find the right moment for that, like to find the right where is the point where she's going to reach that breaking point of like I think that she loves her family despite everything, like in the way that I think, many people understand like that. There are people that we have in our I mean, we're about to have Thanksgiving, and I think everyone's about to have an experience where there's that person in your family who you're gonna have to talk to next week, and you don't agree with them, but you still care about them, and you wish that things could be different. And I think for many people, you reach a point where you realize that it just can't or it just won't. And no matter what you do, like there's a limit to what you can do, to help someone or to get them to agree with you or to see, the things that you're seeing. Um, I think I think Sylvie, it takes her a while to reach that point. She has to kind of go through and try to figure things out, and then she has a conversation with Adria, and is really understanding from her mother's perspective, like things that she didn't really know. And I think that is kind of the breaking point for her, where she's like she'd had these preconceived notions that okay, maybe her father was this kind of violent general kind of type of guy, but I think she'd always kind of maybe seen more of herself in her mother. They had
Hmm.
the same shadow powers and things. And then she comes to find out something about her mother. I won't spoil it here, but that shows her like a more ruthless side than I think she knew that he was capable of, because like Ronan at the time of this is quite young. Like he was only like 18, I think, when the events there kind of happened. um and so I think that's like the point where she has to um, kind of decide for herself that as much as she loves these people, like she's got to put other things before that. Like, and so even whatever it's going to cost them and her, like I think she reaches a point where she's willing to put the kingdom ahead of that. She's willing to put Ronan ahead of that. I think because she believes in him. Like, and it's not just that she loves him, but she does believe that his path is the right path forward.
I love that. Uh, what is the significance of Ronan's light magic being weakened since he isn't seeking power by taking over others?
Yeah. So again, I think we're going to get a lot. I probably won't talk too much about the magic because it is going to
Hmm.
come into play a lot in the next book.
Okay.
That is going to be a major, major kind of some things there. I think that in general, there are a lot of things about the nature of magic, the way that their magic interacts, and kind of all of the things that Zara says, and like the confrontation with her. She had dropped some hints about some there being some additional things that they don't know yet, that are going to be very relevant, and so moments like that are kind of feeding into like how that is going to play out. But I do think it's quite significant, and you're gonna see what it does.
Ah. Okay. Are we gonna see more mythical creatures like the griffin in the next book?
Yes, I would say that it's fair to say there's going to be. Um, I yeah, again, I won't go into like too many specifics, but we're gonna go to some different places as well, in the next book. So there's going to be some different kinds of encounters, but the griffin will certainly be there as well.
Yes, it was so adorable the way he was just like approaching it, and Sylvie was like, "Oh my gosh, like what is he doing right now?" Like, I love that scene.
Yeah.
When can we expect the next book?
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to try to get it out in probably early like summer next year. So like my aim is May. It depends on kind of, let's see how hard it is for me to write.
Hmm.
I actually do like writing sequels more than writing the first book in something, so it should go a little faster. The hardest part to me is always writing the beginning.
Hmm.
It's really hard to like set the stage the way you want it, and so now I've kind of got the stage set. Like I know roughly where things are going. So I'm hoping that I'll write it pretty quickly, and I'm going to try to write it kind of over December and January, and then hoping for like a May-ish release. We'll see.
Okay, so not too long. But do you like writing the sequels better because you already have the stage set then?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, again, it's hard to build the world and teach everybody about the characters and like get something action and interesting and like all that excitement. It's really tough.
Hmm.
But when it's all already there, it's kind of like now I just tell the story. Like now I'll tell you what's happening.
Let's dive in. Will the next book be more focused on Ronan's POV as he tries to save Sylvie, or will it be a more even split?
It will probably. So I don't think the like. Well, I don't want to spoil that. I think we will see his point of view throughout the book. I'll say.
Okay.
I'll say. I think it's going to be a more even split between them. And it may not be like perfectly 50-50, but we're going to have his point of view through a lot of the book. Yeah.
Okay. What do you hope people will take away from this book?
Again, I think it's really for me this kind of like the hopeful vision of like things can be better. Like we I think right now, again, for a lot of people, things are pretty hard. And it's I think in times like this where, it feels in many ways like we're moving in the wrong direction. It can be hard to remember that there are people who want something better for us all. And I think that, and I think sometimes the most powerful way we can make that happen is in the connections that we build with other people,
Hmm.
especially in connections with people who do have a different background than you, like who are who've lived a different life. And so I think that that kind of being open to the experiences of others, going in with empathy and understanding rather than resorting immediately to, confrontation or violence, and trying to build something better is really kind of the message that I was hoping people would get from it.
All right, and my last question for you is what book is your favorite?
Ooh, good question. So this answer's probably changed in the last couple of years because I read a book called Piranesi by Susanna Clark, that I have absolutely not been able to stop thinking about since I read. I talk about it like literally all the time because it's just one of those things where I think it's a short book. It's only like 200 and something pages. But it is such a powerful book, which I think also has a similar kind of message, really, that it is about kind of the pursuit of knowledge. It's about, kind of being open and understanding the world. I absolutely love the main character in that. It's written in kind of like his journal entries and things. I don't want to like talk a little bit about what it's about because it's really great. It's like if you haven't read this, go in blind. Like
Okay,
just
yeah, I haven't
don't
read
don't
it.
don't read the blurb on the back. Don't read anything. Like literally just go in blind. You can read it in about 5 6 hours. It's really quite short. But the way you just root for the character and you're like, oh man, I want him to succeed, like I like him so much. Also, if you listen to the audiobook, it's Chiwetel Ejiofor who reads it, and he's phenomenal. So that's another great, like, listen to that audiobook. But yeah, I literally have not stopped thinking about that book. I think about it like